Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September edition of the Garden Hour with MU Extension. My name is Gwen Funk, and I am the field specialist in horticulture up in Northwest Missouri. And we are so glad that you are here today to join us, and hopefully you can take back some information to help you in your own home garden or help others that you have come in contact with throughout your daily activities. We have a full lineup today. We will be talking about the weather, and then we have a special guest here from Center for Agroforestry that is going to talk to us about the Chestnut Roast Festival. And then we'll talk garlic and All-American Selection, and then also some information about beneficial insects. So that's a full lineup. So we'll get going right away. So first off, we have Zack with the weather. So Zack, if you wouldn't mind, actually, yeah, let me stop sharing and then you can take over. Yep.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And quite a bit to talk about with the weather because as we've started winding down summer and getting into fall here, just like last year, we've also started to dry out. So here's looking back at August for Missouri. And first, I'll note temperatures here. You'll see here that temperatures finished August about a degree below average in Missouri, and that is a little misleading. It doesn't tell the whole story. In reality, we started out the month pretty hot and humid and then finished with a cool stretch. So kind of washed out a little bit cooler than average, but we saw quite a bit of variability in those temperature swings. But the bigger story was the precipitation you see here, and the statewide monthly precipitation total for August on average was just above an inch, so 1.07 inches. That's pretty pitiful for a monthly rainfall total, especially when you see here that our average for August is close to 4 inches. And so we were 2.70 inches below average for August. And so that's just the statewide average. Of course, if we look a little bit closer at places like Springfield receiving 0.19 inches and Columbia just 0.11, we had even drier conditions there. So as a state, it was our third driest August on record. The only 2 months that were drier were August 1909 and August 1936. But of course, we do have some local records too, including the driest August ever recorded down in Springfield and second here in Columbia. So quite a stark contrast from what started out as a pretty wet summer here. But you can see looking at these bar graphs with the kind of roller coaster of temperatures and precipitation we've seen. Actually, if we look at our first 8 months of the year here through the end of August, temperatures are only slightly warmer than average, just less than a degree warmer than average. And precipitation for the whole year is very close to normal, so only 0.84 inches above average. So quite a swing we've seen in 2025. And so I did want to show this map here. This shows the county ranks with data going back to 1895. And this just highlights these dark brown counties here. And there's 8 of them across the state recorded their driest August ever. And so that does include Boone County here and some others in southeast Missouri and into the Boot Heel too. So very, very dry during the month of August. And as this map on the right here shows with a lot of red, we've actually stayed dry here so far in September, or most of us have at least. And so this map shows for September so far our percent of normal precipitation, and anywhere you see those oranges and reds were drier than average. And really, that orange is less than 25% of precipitation. So August has kind of continued from a precipitation standpoint, unless you're up there in far northwest Missouri, where we're actually seeing some rainfall this morning there too. So what we see here for these 5 major sites across the state is pretty common for everywhere, where if you see most of these sites are anywhere from 1.5 inches to 2 inches below normal for September already on precipitation. So we could be on our way to 2 consecutive dry months here. And then you'll also note, much like August, we've kind of started the month cool and then flipped to warmer temperatures. So far through the first half of September, temperatures very close to average there. And so with this dry down here in August and now into September, if you've been following the U.S. Drought Monitor map that comes out each week, it's been changing pretty rapidly. And in fact, this is released on last Thursday, so September 9th here. And what we see is now almost half the state, about 45% of the state, is at least in moderate drought or severe drought. So these are locations in this tan or orange. But 94% of Missouri is at least considered D0 or abnormally dry, as shown by this yellow. So we went from having a map with no color on it in the month of July to almost all of the state at least showing some dryness here. So a quick change in conditions. Now, rainfall over the past 7 days, I kind of briefly hinted that we have seen some storms and showers pop up really daily since Sunday afternoon. And this is precipitation over the past 7 days. And the map looks pretty green, but if you focus in and keep reading a lot of these numbers, number one is that precipitation totals have been very spotty. So these have been hit or miss thunderstorms. And then a lot of us have been left with some light totals here. So you see a lot of totals that are maybe just a few tenths of an inch and not a really significant rainfall amount. And even here in Boone County, I see this 1.24 inches sticking out from a thunderstorm. But I know at my house, for example, we only received 0.16. So very, very spotty rainfall and not the kind we want to really break this drought at this point. But I think we do have some good news if you are looking for rainfall in the future, and that the rain chances should increase here quite a bit over the next 7 days. So I'm going to flip through these rainfall forecast maps. And really the big takeaway is that we'll have pretty consistent chances for daily rainfall here as a system that's in the center of the U.S. really slowly moves off to the east. And so today, most of our rainfall is concentrated up in northwest Missouri, maybe a quarter to a half inch of good rainfall up there. But if we look to Thursday, we see now all of the western half of Missouri getting in on some rainfall chances, and that continues moving east on Friday. Another couple chances of rainfall. This is for the weekend and the 48 hours for Saturday through Monday. And then Monday through Wednesday into next week, we see continued rain chances. So if we add all those up over the 7 day period, this is what we're looking for in the forecast. And a good rule of thumb for September in Missouri is that on average for a week, we expect anywhere between 3/4 to an inch of rainfall. And so these light blues here and getting into the purples are about an inch to 2 inches of rain that's in the forecast. And so this would be a relief and help to slow this onset of drought for a lot of the state. But I should also note that farther east, some of these locations, the dark blue is around a half an inch, and then the green would be less than a half an inch. So maybe not enough rainfall farther east and into southeast Missouri, but definitely good to see at least multiple chances of rainfall here over the next week. Now, with all of this rain, it's also going to cool down our temperatures from what we've seen recently. These are our highs today, where unless you're up in the northwest where it's raining, we've got another hot day with high temperatures in the 90s. But if we look at tomorrow, things start to cool down with that rainfall, and by Friday, almost all of the state back to lower 80s and kind of more normal for this time of the year. So the rain's going to help bring an end to this heat here as well. But looking beyond the middle of next week and kind of how September will finish out, it does look like we should clear out. And this forecast for the 8 to 14 day outlook here shows a pretty high probability of above average temperatures. So for now, the forecast looking like the heat should return for the last week of September there. And then we see the precipitation outlook. It does look like that 7 day chance of rain will kind of come to an end here, as the forecast is for more near normal rainfall during that period as well. And then I'll kind of end with, this is the NOAA Climate Prediction Center seasonal outlook, and this is for September through November 2025. And the forecast for this fall is definitely here. We see for most of the U.S., but including all of Missouri, higher chances for above average temperatures here. And then for Missouri, if you're in the south, slightly higher chances for maybe a drier fall period here, but equal chances for wet or dry for the northern parts of the state. And then one last slide here is that depending on how the weather shakes out, we could be maybe looking at our first frost or talking about our first frost by the next garden hour. And so looking ahead, at least on the next month, this map shows if we just look at our historical temperatures on average, when's the first day we get below 32 degrees or see a freeze during the fall. And we see if you're in northern Missouri or the Ozarks, maybe by mid-October on average, we could see that frost, probably not in the Boot Heel or in the metros of Kansas City. And in central Missouri, like here in Boone County, pretty much a toss-up with that first freeze usually coming around October 20th. And then we do see here, though, with the forecast for warmer temperatures that maybe we push these dates back a little bit this year, but on average, we could be talking about that freeze this time next month. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Zach. I drove through one of those little pop-up storms on my way down from Maryville to Oregon tonight or this afternoon morning. So yeah, everybody's really liking the rain that we're getting today up here. So well done. So next we have our guest speaker. This is Gina Beebe. She is from the Center for Agroforestry, and she is going to be talking to us about an event coming up soon called the Chestnut Roast Festival. So Gina, if you would like to go ahead and share your screen and share with us.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Gwen. Is that everybody can see that okay?
Yes, that is perfect. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so thanks for having me on the Garden Hour. This is really sweet, my first time joining. So thanks for also putting it on my radar. And so today I'm going to be talking about the Missouri Chestnut Roast Festival. This is an event hosted by the University of Missouri Center for Agroforestry, which is where I work. I'm a research and education specialist there. And I'm really the main coordinator for this event. So this has really been my pet project for the past several months. It's been ongoing. It's actually established in 2003 with a couple of years that we took off, and it's really evolved. It started out with our former professor and superstar agroforester Michael Gold. He started the Chestnut Roast Festival by bringing a bunch of chestnuts and a grill to downtown Columbia and handing them out as sort of a consumer awareness promotion activity in the fall. And now it's really evolved into this really big celebration. So a little history there. It's going to be on October 18th, 10 to 3 p.m. And it's going to be at the Horticulture and Agroforestry Research Farm, which is in New Franklin, Missouri. This is a really neat research farm. We have chestnut breeding program there. We have elderberry breeding, black walnut, pecans. They're starting a hazelnut breeding program as well. So it's really great. We have some sheep silvopasture in pine stands. So I think there's a lot of really cool research to see that's happening at MU, and maybe something that you can integrate on your own property, farm, at a large scale, at a small scale, all sorts of different things. So it is, we'll have roasted chestnuts. We're going to have 30 vendors, different agroforestry vendors, elderberry people, aronia people, persimmon people, pretty much every agroforestry crop you might be interested in eating, or specialty tree and shrub crop will be there. We're going to have a pumpkin patch, super kid friendly place, hay wagon rides, native plant sales, Grow Native will be there, as well as the master gardeners. Maybe this is very relevant to some of you guys in the audience right now. And then we'll have artists and technical service providers, conservation organizations, all sorts of different things. I'm just going to run through like a really quick list of who's going to be there in case anybody might really strike your fancy. Yeah, well, I don't need to run through all of these, but CCUA is going to be there. They're going to have a really nice sensory table so you can smell all these different, mostly native plants, and you can touch them and feel them and really get to know them. It's a really fun activity for kids. If you want any help with your property, there's probably going to be somebody there, whether it's financial advising like through the NRCS or MU Extension, or if you need to you have questions about growing nuts or or perhaps you have more wooded land and want to get to know about forest farming. These are all folks who are going to be there. We're going to have a lot of different vendors. These are our agroforestry crop vendors. I will put a little plug in here that if you are a grower that has a bumper crop of maybe apples or pears, or maybe you are a chestnut grower, or maybe you have black walnuts or something like that, and you are interested in selling those products at the Chestnut Roast Festival next year, please get in contact with me. I can put my email in the chat after I get out of here. And yeah, so we're always looking for more vendors. I'm kind of dreaming this into a specialty crop farmers market celebration that happens once a year. So you're welcome to reach out. And then food, this is really fun. So we're gonna have pasta la fata there for the Columbia folk in the audience. They're a local restaurant that uses really high quality ingredients, wheat from a regenerative farm, local foods from the mid-Missouri area. They're going to be making an Italian chestnut soup. So this is really inspired by, the Italians who've been working with chestnuts for a really long time. And then an elderberry and hazelnut salad and bread. So that's going to be available for eating. And then we're also going to have Buck's ice cream, Buck's ice cream. They're going to do pawpaw, elderberry, chestnut, and black walnut ice cream. So you can come have a sample of something really fun. Our graduate student organization is going to do a perennial bake sale. And then for any like real tree nerds out there, we're going to have a syrup tasting station, which I'm actually so excited about. We're going to have maple, birch, black walnut, and sycamore syrups for sample to try. These are all free activities. This is a free activity. And yeah, I tried sycamore syrup the other day for the first time, and it's so interesting. It's like the essence of a sycamore tree. So for anybody who's kind of curious, come out. This might be your only opportunity for a while to try some of these syrups. Yeah, and so the MU Childhood Development Program is going to host the Kids Zone. So we're going to have a bunch of kids activities. We'll have a little send a postcard activity, which is really fun for families to send to uncles and aunts and whoever out of town, and then live music also. So really it's going to be an awesome celebration. The other plug that I didn't put a slide on, oops, sorry. But we're going to have a hazelnut growers workshop the day before on October 17th. So if anybody here is interested in learning more about growing hazelnuts, it's really kind of oriented toward more of a commercial production. But, I think for any even hobby enthusiasts, this would be a really great opportunity to learn more about cultivars and propagation and all sorts of different things. And then that will also provide an opportunity to get a little closer glimpse of the research happening at the horticulture and agroforestry research farm. So feel free to reach out with any questions, and yeah, I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Gina. That was amazing. That sounds like such a fun day. There's so many different things there that sounds like anybody can find something. And yeah. The syrup tasting sounds really cool. I love the hazelnut focus as well. So I hope you guys were looking on Google Maps and trying to find where New Franklin was while she was talking. It's not too far outside of Columbia, just to the northwest just a bit. So I think it's kind of centrally located. So hopefully within driving distance for most of us. So sounds like a great place to go. Thank you so much, Gina, for being with us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, next we are going to be talking with Kelly. Kelly is a field specialist in horticulture from the southwest part of the state. She's going to be talking to us about garlic. Kelly, are you ready?
All right, I am ready. Can you see my screen?
I am seeing the presentation, but not the, I'm seeing, there you go. Perfect.
Oh, does that look good? Okay.
It does.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about garlic, but I also want to mention for anyone that's listening, if you've never eaten chestnuts before, they are so tasty. A little bit of butter on there. They're just absolutely incredible. So I encourage you to go to that event if you can. Another thing that's incredibly tasteful is garlic. And so we're going to talk about planting garlic because now is the time of the year to do so. Okay, so we typically start with seed garlic, and basically what seed garlic is it is garlic that is hopefully certified disease-free and hasn't been sprayed with any chemicals to keep it from sprouting like grocery store garlic or anything like that. This is just good seed stock garlic. And you can find places online that sell seed stock garlic. So they're pretty easy to find. I just purchased some from Filaree, Filaree. That is a great place for seed stock garlic. Johnny's, any of our seed catalogs that we get in the mail, there's usually a good selection of seed garlic in those. Garden centers are starting to carry it. So there's a lot of places where you can find seed garlic pretty easily. So I encourage you, if you like garlic, to go ahead and plant that. So when you purchase your seed garlic, you want to start with bulbs that have some weight to them. So you put them in your hand and they're not light as a feather. You want to feel a little bit of weight, and they should be kind of heavy for their size. They should be nice and firm. You shouldn't see any spongy, soft, or moldy spots on the garlic. You want blemish-free cloves with tight, intact wrappers. You're going to leave those wrappers on the cloves when you plant, so you want to make sure that those are intact. And then any bulbs that are moldy, damaged, discolored, smell, you want to get rid of those. So that's the main thing. And then when you purchase your seed garlic, this is typically how it comes, and this is what you'll end up with. And seed garlic, as you can see, is very clean. There's hardly any dirt or soil on there. The root end has been trimmed. The stem end has been trimmed as well. So you just want a nice, clean, firm seed garlic like we're seeing here. And once you get your garlic, if you're not able to plant it right away, that is okay. You can store it in the refrigerator or someplace like that until you're ready to plant. So it is okay to sit for a little while. And so the fall is typically when we plant garlic in Missouri, about mid-September or so. So right now is a great time. Now, with that being said, I was involved in some garlic research with some colleagues a few years ago, and one of the things that we specifically looked at was different planting dates for garlic. And, like I said, now is the time when you plant it, but a lot of times for some of our commercial vegetable producers, they might not be able to get it in the ground right now, either due to not being able to get the seed stock, or maybe it's weather, or they're just too busy. And what we found from some of our research is that you can continue to plant into the spring. So with our research, we planted in November, February, March, and I think March was the latest that we planted. And although those kind of winter and early spring planting dates aren't ideal, and you're probably not going to get as much yield from that garlic as if you would have planted it in the fall, you can still get some decent yields out of that. So even if you can't get it planted now, go ahead and plant later on and you'll still be okay. So you start with heads of garlic, like I showed you in the last photo, and then you break those heads up into individual cloves, okay? And so that's what we're seeing right here is the individual clove. The pointed end of that clove needs to go up, and the flat end of that clove needs to go down. Okay, so the flat end is going to be where the roots come out of. So make sure that you have it oriented correctly when you plant it in the ground. And for most garlic cloves, about an inch deep is fine. Any deeper than that, and they might struggle a little bit. But for a general rule of thumb, about an inch deep, about an inch or two spacing between plants is perfectly fine. So plant the cloves in the ground, and I like to cover my planting with straw, and then that's basically all you do all winter long. And as we go through the winter, you're going to see some above ground foliage start to emerge. The plant will grow throughout the winter and will continue to do so. And then as we get into about May or June of next year, the bottom 2 to 4 leaves will start to die on that garlic plant. And that is an indication that it is ready to harvest. Okay, so watch carefully and don't let the plant completely die. You want to catch those bottom 2 to 4 leaves as an indicator for harvest. And my favorite way to harvest garlic is either with a shovel or a pitchfork, and you want to dig down underneath that head of garlic and just kind of gently lift it out of the ground. And that way you're going to ensure that you don't damage the heads of garlic and you don't nick it or anything like that. And it'll just come out of the ground easier. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but in Southwest Missouri, we have a lot of clay and a lot of rock in our soil, and there is no way you can just go out and pull that out of the ground with your hands. So pitchfork, shovel works pretty good. So I mentioned a little bit about purchasing seed garlic, and there are lots of wonderful places online. And again, even your seed catalogs that you're going to start getting soon, a lot of them have seed garlic as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind with seed garlic is some suppliers require that you order it early. For instance, the garlic that I just received in the mail a few days ago, I ordered back in the summer. And so a lot of times you have to order early and then they ship it about this time of the year. So be mindful of that and double check that before you order. And again, local garden nurseries, I'm starting to see a lot of that. So that's an option for purchasing seed garlic. And then, don't forget about your farmers markets. Not only are we supporting our local farmers, but that's a good source for seed garlic as well. They're going to be bringing their biggest and their best heads of garlic for people to purchase. And you can use that as seed garlic along with just using it in the kitchen. And then once you get going, you can start saving your own heads of garlic. So save the ones, the biggest and the best, and use that as your own seed garlic. And then you can plant it the following year. So that's a great option. And then I have people ask about grocery store garlic, and like other types of root crops like potatoes and things like that, they've been sprayed with a chemical to prevent them from sprouting. Eventually, that chemical will wear off and it will start to sprout. So if you're having trouble finding seed garlic, you can plant grocery store garlic, and it might not be quite as big a heads as you would get with seed garlic, but it'll still be fine, and you can get some garlic that way as well. I do want to just mention that there is hardneck and softneck types of garlic. Hardneck garlic sends up a seed stalk that is called a scape, SCAPE, and that will eventually flower and make little miniature bulbs, which can be planted to start new plants. Hardneck garlic has larger cloves that are easier to peel, but fewer cloves. And then the softneck garlic typically has smaller cloves with tighter skins. Both can be grown easily in Missouri, and there's a lot of great, tasty strains of garlic in both hardneck and softneck types. And I mentioned this, harvest it when the bottom 2 to 4 leaves have browned and started to fall over. You want to dig your garlic ideally in the morning and put it in some kind of a shady spot to kind of dry out for the rest of the day. And you want to let it cure for 2 to 3 weeks in a shady, cool location. And while it's curing, the skins will form a papery texture like you would see on onions or garlic in the grocery store. And then another thing I'll mention about harvesting is you don't want to hose it all off, okay? Just a dry brush, get off that extra mud or soil. And because we want it to remain dry, that's going to be better for long-term storage. So try to keep it as dry as possible. And then I think that is it, Gwen, if anyone has any questions.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm back on. Sorry about that. I got kicked off a couple of times and I wasn't sure if I was going to be make it back. Thank you, Kelly.
You bet.
I have not tried to grow garlic, so maybe this is my year to try it. We'll see.
It's so tasty. And
Oh,
one of my favorites is one called Georgian Fire. It's from the country of Georgia, and it's a really spicy type. And when we did our garlic research, we also had some garlic workshops and some garlic tastings. And we would have roasted garlic, we would have raw garlic of all these different types. And there's a lot of different taste between the different strains. So if you like garlic, you might experiment with that.
sounds great. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that information today. Appreciate it. Okay, next on our docket, Jennifer is here, another one of our horticulture specialists from the northeast part of the state. As some of you know, we've been growing a lot of the All-American Select plants this year, and I think she's going to talk about what's been blooming really well and what's doing really well right now. So Jennifer, I see you're ready to go.
Yes, thank you, Gwen. So it has been a wonderful opportunity to grow an All-America Selection garden. And to sum it up, there's about 2 words I would say about all these plants, whether they be a flower or a vegetable, and that is wow or amazing. So the tomatoes, the kohlrabi, the broccoli has all been very tasty, high quality, beautiful. The flowers are bright, they're brilliant, they're showy, they're just productive. And so that's why I can say it's wow, it's amazing. So I want to tell you about some of the some more flowers that we have been growing. I guess before I do that, I'll just tell you, it's been a great project. So we received our seeds back in late December, and we started those in the spring and then set them out end of April into May. Actually, the cool season stuff was set out in April. But it's been a wonderful project. The plants are superior. And like I said, they're tasty, they're showy, they're bright, so superior plants, and they're holding up to the drought pretty well with this dry weather. They also held up to all the rain we had all summer, or most of them did. So it's been very rewarding to see the beautiful blooms and the beautiful, let's say, purple kohlrabi, the fruits from seed to harvest. So we go from a little tiny seed. Some of these plants, their seeds are very tiny. And then now it's kind of cool to see them go all the way from seed to harvest. And the concert bell sunflowers were so beautiful. And I had them arranged and growing in such a way that they were all the consistent height, and they made for a fun photo shoot. It was about the time that the seniors were doing senior photos, and I told my husband, hey, it'd be kind of fun to go out to the sunflowers and just do our own photo shoot. So I do have one photo coming up that I'll show you that he took. And then I've done educational programming. I have been to different groups in my region, doing some educational programming on this, telling them about the All-America Selection Organization, telling them about all the different plants that we're growing in the garden and their qualities, and then showing them photos. And as of last night, 120 people have been through the garden. So we had a master gardener meeting here, and some of them went through for the 3rd time. Now, I do count them in that count because some of them went through in May, some have been through in July, and then September. So as any garden does, the All-America Selection Garden has gone through different stages. It was, we saw it early in May or mid-May. And then people saw it in July when it was at its peak. So peak for this is July in Northeast Missouri. And now it's looking like most gardens do. And some, we had 19 people go through it last night. So today I have 120. So this is some data I can use when I do a poster for a national conference next year. But it's been a fun project. So I'll tell you about the concert bell sunflower. This one is fantastic. And this is a sunflower variety I would recommend you grow next year. If you're into sunflowers, if you like cut flowers, this one has been very impressive. It has multiple clusters of 10 to 12 flowers per stem. They are big, they're beautiful. And what's neat about this one is with one cut, you can get a bouquet of like 8 flowers. So in that third bullet, it says each plant grows to a very uniform height of 5 to 6 feet. And it's an instant ready-made bouquet from just one cut. Because again, there's about 8 flowers on the top of the stem. And the length of the stem is not real long, like the flower stems. But from the main stem, they shoot off about 8 different flowers. So one cut, it does end that flowers, it's done. That flower is done once you cut it, but it's an amazing cut flower. And the seed germination was excellent. As with all these All-America selection plants, I had excellent seed germination, nearly 100%. They were all easy to grow. So sunflowers in general are an easy to grow plant, but this one was easy to grow. So concert bell was trialed in a year of adverse weather conditions, and multiple judges commented on its durability and its sturdiness, even through strong storms and winds. So that's something to keep in mind. Some sunflowers will fall over during storms and high winds, but during the trials, this one stood up to the storm. So that's what makes it a good flower. And here are some of the photos from the MU Extension Garden here in Kirksville. You can see that the height of the flower is all fairly consistent. And on the far right, you can see how there's just a lot of flowers right there where you can just make one cut and you have an instant bouquet to put in a vase. And then you see the photo shoot my husband and I did just one day after church. We're like, oh, let's go over to the extension office and let's do our own little photo shoot. It was right at that time the seniors were doing fun photo shoots with sunflowers, and it was just kind of a fun day. It was nearly 100 degrees that day, but wanted to get that in while the sunflowers were still in bloom. So point is, if you're looking for an opportunity to grow flowers for photo shoots, this one is a good one. So put that on your list if you're looking for one for taking photos with. Moving on to icicle eggplant. This one was really good. So this one is a plant that has fewer spines than most eggplants. The fruits are large, white eggplants. They produce well. They have fewer seeds. So that's what I noticed right away about these when I cut it into them. There's a lot less seeds than with, let's say, purple varieties. The large, durable, and vigorous plants hold up to insect damage and the environment. So you can see some flea beetle damage on those leaves, but they are still out there in the garden. Actually, they're in containers and they are still thriving and producing and doing well. The improved texture and taste has universal appeal, whether it's fresh or cooked. And one of the judges served it to his children and said, even my 11-year-old asked for seconds when I breaded and fried them at home. And that's a culinary testimonial. So my kids ate it too. I have teenage boys and I cut it up. I made eggplant parmesan and they liked it and actually went back for seconds. San Joaquin jalapeno. Gosh, I've grown a lot of jalapenos and this is now my new favorite. It is a determinate, which means it's going to flower and set fruit in a period of time. It's not going to keep flowering and fruiting all the way to the hard frost. But this one is one that will impress you. The fruits are large. We've been eating these for about 2 months now. They produce about 50 fruits per plant. And they're all uniform in size. They're all pretty uniform. And some of them have been a little hot and then others are not. So my family eats them and are like, oh, that one's hot. And then we'll eat another one. Oh, that one's not so hot. Anyway, they're good. They're good. I stuff them, put various things in them. I've had them on the grill. So we like them. They're perfect for canning, pickling, making roasted stuffed jalapenos. And some of them are turning red now on the plant. So the longer you leave them, the more likely they are to turn red. But that's a good one. Really impressed with this one. San Joaquin jalapeno. Moving on to Flama orange celosia. Flama is coming in hot. Get ready to bring some fiery orange color to your garden with Flama, or the flame celosia. It is a fairly compact variety. It has numerous branches, and the plumes are impressive. So bright orange plumes with Flama orange. The AAS judges were impressed with the superior garden performance and how well it stood up to hot, humid, and rainy conditions during the trial season. And I can say the same thing for right here in Kirksville, Missouri. This plant is holding up wonderful in a container out in front of the extension office, as well as in the ground. So great plant. If you like orange, this is one to try in the future. And then here is Burning Embers celosia. This one too is like Flama. It is impressive. It's bright, it's showy, it held up through rain. Now it's holding up through dry conditions and heat. So this is another good one. Burning Embers is a new celosia bred for its gorgeous bronze foliage with dark pink veins that contrast nicely with the vibrant pink flowering plumes. It's well branched. Numerous AAS judges commented that this entry had the largest and longest lasting flowers of all the celosia varieties that they trialed. So I have grown them. I did grow them together, as you see here at the extension office, and this was about a month ago. They were extremely impressive. It was like, wow, those are just beautiful. And when people came into our extension office, they commented on how impressive they were. And I have them right in front of the building, so people can't miss them. So these are just super impressive, and I would highly recommend these. This is Zydeco Fire Zinnia, another one that you just have to say, wow. Now, this was gorgeous about a month ago. Zinnias, are starting to fizzle out a little bit as we're going into fall now, but still, they're still going strong. They were inspired by the lively foot-stomping music of Southwest Louisiana. This zinnia bursts with sunshine, bright, fully double flowers that are noticeably larger than the comparisons. The fiery orange blooms all summer long, right up until the first frost. And again, this is one I've been really impressed with. This AAS winter is the perfect way to add a vibrant melody to your garden symphony of color. So keep this one in mind for next year. This one grew really well and produced a lot of fruits. And this is one I took home and I cooked it up for my family. And my husband and boys liked this one. They were impressed by it. And that really means a lot when you're feeding men and teenage boys squash. Not everybody likes squash, but they did. So it's early, it's fast. Green Lightning squash impressed the judges with its early maturity. It's a cute little squash. Let's just say that about it. It's a cute little squash. When cooked, the squash had nice, robust flavor that stood up to added seasonings. And I do put seasonings on it. But really good. So if you like squash and you want to try something new, try Green Lightning. And this one is a favorite of a lot of people that have walked through the garden. So those celosias are quite impressive, but this one's impressive too. And I think I've showed this one before, but I can't leave it out again. This is just amazing. Amazing is the word for this one. It has looked like this for about 3 months. So it started looking like this in the end of June, and it is still going strong. Right now, if you walk out to the extension garden here in Kirksville, it's going to look like this. It is wow. So very impressive. Deco Max Pink Petunia is the name of this one. Now, I have had a few plant issues. Earlier in the season, it rained. And it rained in Kirksville, Missouri, and it did in other parts of the state. And I used straw around some of the plants to keep out weeds and to hold out moisture when I first planted them. Well, I didn't want to pull all the straw back because if I did that, I would have a lot of weeds, and I didn't want to deal with weeds because I have too many other things to do. So I left the straw, and it was holding too much moisture. And so I lost some of the nasturtiums that you see some gaps here and toward the back of this bed. On the left, you see there's some dead plants. So they totally died, some of them. And I was left with bare spots. But look on the right. So I just took this photo about a week ago. Once it quit raining, they revived themselves. They came back. They're going strong right now. They have gold, yellow, and red blossoms because I have 3 different types. We have baby gold, baby red, and baby yellow, and they're just doing great now. They just don't like rain. They don't like wet, flooded areas, and that straw was just holding in too much moisture, but I wasn't going to pull it off because I didn't want to deal with weeds. And to wrap up, I'll show you this one. This is Raspberry Shake Petunia. I was really impressed with it in May and June. The flowers you see here on the right, I just took about a week ago. What happened is, with all that rain, it did what petunias do. It started getting sick looking, yellow, scraggly, just I thought they were going to die, and they didn't. So when the rain shut off in mid-August here, they revived and they came back. They had new growth, and you can see some of the new growth starting to form there in the center of that plant. Well, it's filled out and the flowers look really good. So this one doesn't like a lot of water, a lot of rain. And once the rain shuts off, you don't water as much, it's going to come back and do much better. So very pretty flowers. Just isn't a plant that likes a lot of water. And to learn more about the All-America Selection winners, you can go to their website and check it out. You can Google any of these that I showed you today to learn more. And a common question I'm getting is, where can I get the seeds? Where can I find them? So if you go to the All-America Selection website and you click on Zydeco Fire, there's a pull-down menu that says where you can buy them, and it will list the seed companies where you can purchase them. So most of these have 1 to 3 seed companies listed where you can get seed. And just a heads up also, as you're at the retail garden centers next year, look around, look at the tags. I was at a garden center. I was at a store, let's just call it a country store north of Kirksville. And I was looking at their plants, and they had a coleus there, and it had the AAS coleus that we're growing. Coral Candy is the one we're growing in our gardens. And they had it at this little country garden store north of Kirksville. And I was impressed to see it. So just look for that AAS symbol on your labels as you're at the retail garden centers next spring. And that concludes my presentation.
Yeah, it has been so much fun to grow those AAS plants this year, and I've learned so much doing that. And I just got an email from Zack that said he picked up the quickfire pepper and grew it at home, and it looks great. And I know that one is really, really hot from what people that have tested the one that I have growing up in Gentry County. So yeah, it's just been a
quickfire. That one is really pretty as an ornamental. So
yeah.
I have that. We all have that one, and you could grow that one as an ornamental. Yeah, it's really hot. But some people are saying, oh, I should grow that as an ornamental. So keep that in mind too. It'd be pretty in pots for next year.
Yeah, and they turn that bright red, so it's a good thing for an ornamental in a pot on a patio, I think, because they're kind of small, or smaller than some of the others. So yeah.
Jennifer, you did a fabulous job all summer long with showcasing these AAS different winners, and having the Master Gardener chapter here in Columbia with me. I've kind of turned it over to them, and I'll tell you what, where they're doing it is on one of our extension farms. And I'll tell you what, they get nothing but wonderful comments about their gardens out there and the varieties. And they simply love talking about all those different plants. You heard Jennifer talk about it. I've heard my master gardeners talking about it in the same way. These plants are simply wonderful. So if you've got an opportunity, I might drop some comments and links in the chat where I put down by state. Unfortunately, Missouri has only got one listing there. But if you continue to go back and know what those different varieties are, and I linked it up earlier in the chat, you can be on the lookout for those next year, because I know I certainly will. And Celosia has a very vibrant pink, and it was not ready for us to have for our gardens this year. And I'm hoping it's going to be available next year. It is simply gorgeous. It's bright, brilliant pink. It's just amazing. So thank you, Jennifer, for doing this all summer.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Another thing I'd like to add is, if any of you on here would like to see the plants that we grew at the MU Extension Center here in Adair County, if you're on Facebook, if you'll search for MU Extension in Adair County and like us, you can go through all the way back to April and look through April through now, and you can see all the plants that we have posted and all of our photos and the description. So that is what, I mean, I encourage you to go to the website, the AAS website, but if you want to see what we've done here in Northeast Missouri in Kirksville, go to MU Extension in Adair County, like us, and you can look through those.
Perfect. Okay, now we're going to switch gears here and talk a little bit about beneficial insects to combat the aphids on milkweed. I know that's a common question that I see or hear from people who are trying to grow milkweed. So Donna's going to give us some information about that. And it looks like she's ready to go.
Okay,
Thanks,
so
Donna.
you can see the slide, right?
Yep, looks great.
Okay. So this year, I did order in some different milkweeds. And in the picture that you're seeing, it's called balloon milkweed, or hairy milkweed. And a lot of it's because the seed pods are hairy, or they look like a balloon. Well, just, starting out, the plant did really well. And then about I'd say probably a month and a half in, it started getting shoot tip borers. So these little borers that will burrow into the tips. And I got really disheartened because I told myself, I'm not growing this plant again. If I can't have the blooms and I can't have what it's bred for, I don't want it. Now, it's a tropical milkweed. It's not native. But then something started to happen. I noticed that it just started getting more aphids and more aphids. And then, I decided to go ahead and start taking a look at that plant. And then I started realizing this plant has its own ecology or environmental thing going on. And that's what I'm wanting to share with you, that when aphids hit milkweeds, step back a moment and take a look at some of the other things that could be going on. And that might be a good reason not to control the aphids. And so this is sort of my story of why I've let my aphids go. So one of the biggest benefits of a milkweed, of course, is the monarch butterfly. Everybody loves to see a monarch. And so I noticed real quickly that I had monarch eggs, which I hadn't seen before. And I was just blown away. I was excited because everywhere I looked, there were monarch eggs everywhere. And then I started seeing, of course, the caterpillars. And because I was spending so much time with the plant, I was noticing that some of these caterpillars, they start out just a couple of centimeters long. So you don't even notice them and don't even, it's hard to fathom something that small, getting a start out. But then they kept gradually getting bigger and bigger. And finally you could see the big monarch caterpillars. But this is what everybody jumps to when we talk about beneficial insects and milkweed. They automatically think, oh yeah, monarch caterpillar. Well, it goes so much further than that. And that's what I want to share with you. So on my cell phone, I went and got a lens, it's a macroscopic, microscopic lens. So there's two different lenses. You put them together, it's macroscopic. Or a wide lens. If you take them apart, then you can have a micro lens. And so I started attaching that to my phone, and I was amazed at how much better my pictures were compared to just using the cell phone alone. And so these are some of the pictures I've been taking. So of course the monarch butterfly, and you can see over to the left on the picture where you see dead foliage. That is what happens on that shoot tip borer. And then in the distance, right smack dab in the middle of the picture, further out, you can start seeing some brownish black looking. That's where also the shoot tip borer happened also. And so, but just bear with me. I started looking closer, and of course, then I started seeing the ladybugs. And everybody always thinks, okay, beneficials, ladybugs are also another good one. And so, of course, the adult ladybird beetle or ladybug is on the left. And of course, the larva, or what we call the alligator, is on the right. And you can see that he's got a aphid in his mouth chowing down. So I thought that was really neat. And so a lot of these pictures are on portrait mode so that it blurs the background and I can focus on just the bug at hand. Then we have parasitic wasps. So as you can see, we've already covered a few parasites or predators that would help knock down that aphid population. Well, the parasitic wasp, it's a little very small wasp, never know it's there. The picture's all the way to the right at the top, and it shows that it's parasitizing or laying an egg in one of these aphids. And once it's parasitized, the aphid swells up, turns a different color. And when the larva inside eats that aphid and then pupates, when he's ready to crawl out, he drills a hole out of the back end of the aphid and crawls out. So it's pretty cool, and so we've got several insects now going. Then we have to take a look at the lacewings. And I always knew lacewings would be present if you had aphids. But one thing that was really cool is there's 3 types of lacewings that were present, not just one. And this happens to be the brown lacewing. And so as you can see, the right-hand picture, you can see the aphid in his mouth. And then of course on the left, it's a different pose for him. And he's going after the aphids. Well, this is really cool. I always thought lacewings looked a certain way. Well, I seen this one and I go, well, what is this guy? Well, he is a brown lacewing. This one over to the left is a red-lipped green lacewing. So let me say that again, a red-lipped green lacewing. The one on the right is the green lacewing. So we have 3 different species of lacewings on the same plant. So I was very, very fascinated by this and excited about this because honestly, I don't think that I'd ever seen any of the lacewing larvae in action, but boy, do they eat aphids. They are ferocious when it comes to aphids. And then once you start looking at the plants, you start noticing all the lacewing eggs. And so lacewing eggs are actually suspended on a filament. And so like a little thread that holds them away from the leaf. And it's really cool because you can see if you see the filaments and towards the top, some of them are white and some of them are gray. The gray ones are the ones that have already hatched. The white ones have not. And so you can see all throughout this picture, white ones and gray ones. And so I think that is really neat because that was the first thing I noticed about the leaves is, what are those? I've never seen those before. And once I started doing my research and looking around, did I realize that they were actually the lacewing eggs, which is really cool. Then there was also other things on there. So this is flower flies. Some people call them sweet bees. Some people call them sweat bees. Some people call them hover flies, flower flies, corn flies, lots of different names. The big thing is they're a non-stinging insect, even though they look a little bee-ish or waspish. But they start out, they're a little grubbish worm, and they're blind. So they roam around feeling with their mouth and tasting things in order to find these aphids. It's very fascinating to watch them move about and go after the aphids. But anyhow, the one on the left is a younger version of the one in the middle. And of course, the adult is over to the right top. And I just find that fascinating. I could go out there repeatedly throughout the day and even from day to day and watch these little guys go from a really young larva to through the different end stages and finally into even the pupa. The pupa is over at the right. It's in the black circle. And so it will sit there in the resting stage until it's ready to hatch out. So it's a really cool or pupate out. It's a really cool life cycle, and watching things go is just amazing. And this is one that looks, this is one is right before it pupates. And they say that these skeletons, these aphid skeletons that you see over to the right, they will actually be attached to the exterior of these worms or the larva, and it helps to camouflage them. So I thought that was pretty cool. The unfortunate part of the this food web that I found on this plant is I kept noticing that my monarch larvae were dead and they were hanging. They were just limp and hanging, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And then finally one day I went out there and I actually caught these critters in the process of eating these caterpillars. And so after that, I knew exactly what was going on. This is a beneficial stink bug called the spine soldier bug. And, he is beneficial. So I had to really tell myself, don't do anything about him, leave him be. It's just part of nature. But unfortunately, the caterpillars are the casualty. Now, as much as I want, like I said, I want to get rid of these guys, I left them. Actually, I didn't. Let me rephrase that. I moved them to a different plant because I didn't want them killing my caterpillars. I keep an eye out for them now, and if I find any more, I move them to a different plant. But I do not kill them, so I leave them pretty much alone, intact. But just know that when we have plants in nature and they have pest problems, just know that there are things working in nature. There's that food web, there's predators, there's parasitoids out there that are working in this plant world to control some of the pests. So I just wanted to share what I've learned. So that's all I have.
Hey, Donna, your pictures are phenomenal here. Can you type into the chat box what you actually purchased for your phone?
Yes, I will try to find that real quick.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, folks, we are about out of time. So I'm going to share some things here real quick, just as a reminder that you can view these after. I don't know if you're seeing my screen or not. Okay, hopefully you're seeing that. You can go to youtube.com/MUIPM and find the recording. I think there was some amazing information today that you can probably want to go back and watch again. So make sure that, or remember that that is available to you. And then also, our next meeting will be October 15th, again, noon to 1. You can register so that you can get a link, and that will help remind you at ipm.missouri.edu/downhalls. So hopefully you can go and do that. And then also, I would recommend that you save the chat today because there was a lot of information. You go to open your chat, go to the top to the 3 dots, and then a prompt will come up for you to save the chat, and it will save it to wherever it goes on your computer. So that way you have those links. And then lastly, just remember, we have horticulturalists that are spread all across the state, and we are here to help you. So if you have a question about any of your plant problems, we are happy to help and happy to learn along with you. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you have a wonderful afternoon and keep growing. We'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.